Hello and welcome to Millennium Sports World. Today we will present a sports story of local and international sports including MMA, golf, tennis, auto race, boxing, NFL, MLB and some more sports news. So let's explore today's sports world. Belinda Bencic beat Daria Kasatkina 6-0, 6-2 on Saturday to win the Adelaide International Women's title, her sixth on the WTA Tour. The 13th-ranked Swiss player took barely an hour to beat the 8th-ranked Kasatkina. Bencic converted 5 of her 7 break points and won almost double the amount of points than the Russian, who had been impressive in reaching the semi-finals before both women had walkovers to advance to the final. It was the first tournament win for the reigning Olympic champion with new coach Dmitry Tursunov. It's our first title together. Sure, it's not the last one. I feel like we are just starting, so thanks a lot, Bencic said. In the men's title match, Sunwoo Kwon, who lost in qualifying but was a late call-up to the main draw due to an injury withdrawal, beat Roberto Batista 6-4, 3-6, 7-6. The South Korean player was down 2-0 in the final set and had 2 break points against him before he recovered for the victory. Ayla Tomljanovic, who beat Serena Williams in her final match at last year's US Open, and Paula Badosa, who was seeded 11th at Melbourne Park, withdrew from the Australian Open on Saturday because of injuries. Tomljanovic is dealing with a bad knee that forced her to skip the United Cup this month. Badosa has a hurt thigh. Their exits will allow Liulia Genjin and Laura Pigossi, 2 players who lost in qualifying, to move into the main draw at the year's first Grand Slam tournament, which begins Monday. Tomljanovic reached the quarterfinals at Wimbledon and the US Open in 2022. Her 7-5, 6-7, 6-1 victory over Williams, who had announced before play began at Flushing Meadows that she was ready to walk away from her playing career, put Tomljanovic in the 4th round in New York for the first time. Badosa, who has been ranked as high as number 2, pulled out of the semi-finals at the Adelaide International Tournament this week after injuring her thigh there. Francesco Molinari raced aloft the Hero Cup in front of his jubilant Continental Europe teammates. Now he wants back in for an even bigger team event in golf, the Ryder Cup, being held in his native Italy later this year. It's a great motivation for me, said Molinari, who captained Continental Europe to a 14.5 to 10.5 win over Britain and Ireland on Sunday, ending a week when European golfers got a taste of the match play pressure some of them will be facing in the Ryder Cup outside Rome in September. He said, "The Ryder Cup is a long way away. There is a lot of golf to play and I need to focus on my game, which is much better than it has been. Being in Rome will be incredible." Molinari led from the front in Abu Dhabi, scoring 3.5 points for the week, tied for the most across the 4 sessions and laying the platform in the Sunday singles by taking down Shane Lowry, the highest-ranked player in the event, in the first match with a 3-2 win. Continental Europe started the day leading 8.5, 6.5 and owned the singles 6-4, with Adrian Meronk holding a 25-foot putt at number 18 to claim the clinching point. It was the Polish player's only one of the week. 2 swings were all it took for Hayden Buckley to become another face in a large crowd of contenders to a 2-shot lead Saturday in the Sony Open. On a day when there was an 8-way tie for the lead at one point, Buckley made a pair of eagles on the back 9 at Wiley that carried him to a second straight 6 under 64 and allowed him at least a little separation. One of them was a wedge from 133 yards that he thought he tugged to a left pin at number 10, the 3rd easiest hole on the course. Instead, it turned out perfectly. "It was nice to see that," Buckley said. "I did pull a little bit and wasn't sure where it was going to land." The other was among his best swings of the day, a 5-iron from 221 yards that rolled up to 2 feet to the front left pin on the par 5 18th hole. Otherwise, it was a steady diet of purrs and the occasional birdie on a course where the fairways are running fast. UFC 285 got a major boost Saturday when UFC President Dana White announced Jon Jones will fight for the heavyweight title March 4 against Cyril Gane at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Jones will make his first appearance since February 2020 when he beat Dominic Reyes to defend his light heavyweight championship. He then vacated the title in hopes of getting a shot at the heavyweight belt. White said he offered former heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou the richest deal for the heavyweight in UFC history to fight Jones, but he turned it down, so White turned to Gane. Many believe, including me, Jones is the best of all time, White said. Jon Jones has been ready, willing and able to fight anybody. He didn't care who it was. There was no fight of the night awarded at UFC Vegas 67 and finishers picked up the slack with a quartet of performance of the night bonuses. 4 fighters earned additional 50,000 checks for their wins on Saturday at UFC Apex in Las Vegas, with co-main event fighter Dan Ige the highest placed on the fight card to capture a bonus. Ige lived up to his 50K nickname with a second round walk-off knockout of Damon Jackson, who folded with a left hook after being forced to slug it out with the Hawaii native. The win put Ige back on the right foot after a trio of losses. It was his third UFC bonus. One fight prior to Ige, Roman Kopylov picked up his first additional check with the second round stoppage of Ige's longtime teammate Punahele Soriano, who succumbed to a series of nasty body attacks. It was his second straight UFC win. Main card opener Umar Nurmagomedov, the cousin of undefeated former champ Khabib Nurmagomedov, picked up the most impressive win of his octagon career by starching vet Raoni Barcelos with a punch in the first round. It was his second UFC bonus. There might be a reboot on the horizon for actor Frankie Muniz, one aptly titled Malcolm in the Middle of a Pileup. Muniz, who starred in Malcolm in the Middle and Agent Cody Banks, announced this week that he is competing as a full-time race car driver in the Arca Maynard series. It's a low-level feeder series for NASCAR, one that typically features less experienced drivers and will serve as a starting point for Muniz's stock car career. The 37-year-old Muniz got behind the wheel of the number 30 Ford for Red Jones Racing during a test session Friday at Daytona International Speedway and said, "I wanted this my entire life." His first of 20 scheduled races in 2023 will come at Daytona on February 18. A longtime racing enthusiast, Muniz drove the pace car for the 2001 Daytona 500, a race in which 7-time Cup Series champion Dale Earnhardt was killed on the final lap. Coincidentally, the chassis of the car Muniz is scheduled to drive at Daytona in the ARCA season opener was driven by Sterling Marlin that fateful day more than 2 decades ago. Kyle Larson will attempt to race the Indianapolis 500 next year with McLaren Racing in a joint effort with NASCAR team owner Rick Hendrick. The surprise announcement Thursday by McLaren and Hendrick at last gives Larson a path into his dream race. It also means he will become just the 5th driver to run the double on Memorial Day weekend, driving the Indy 500 and Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte, North Carolina on the same day. John Andretti, Robbie Gordon, Tony Stewart and Kurt Busch are the other NASCAR drivers to compete in both races. Larson has long said he wants to race in the Indy 500 but did not have a viable Chevrolet opportunity for the 2023 running of the greatest spectacle in racing this May. His entry with McLaren will be co-owned by Hendrick and sponsored by HendrickCars.com, the primary backer of Larson's ride in NASCAR. Jerry Coetzee, a former South African boxer and WBA heavyweight champion who defied some of his country's racist laws during the height of apartheid in the 1970s and 1980s and won popularity with Nelson Mandela and both black and white fans, has died. He was 67. Coetzee died on Thursday in Cape Town just over a week after being diagnosed with lung cancer. His former manager, Tinus Stridham, said Friday. Coetzee, who was white, was the first African boxer to win a world heavyweight title. He knocked out American rival Michael Douglas in the 10th round in Richfield, Ohio in 1983 to win the WBA belt, a big upset that was celebrated throughout South Africa despite it being fragmented at the time by the apartheid laws of racial segregation. Coetzee's victory also made him the first white boxer to win a world heavyweight title in more than 20 years, but he made clear after the fight against Douglas how much he disliked being labeled the Great White Hope. Efe Ajagba ended Stephen Shaw's unbeaten record after securing victory via unanimous decision in a tight heavyweight contest in New York. Ajagba re-established himself as a contender to watch after a solid display during a largely uneventful encounter at Turning Stone Resort Casino, with all three judges scoring the 10-round clash 96-94 in favor of the Nigerian. The 28-year-old was trailing on all three cards against Shaw, although landed far more punches and jabs than the American over the last 4 rounds to win his second straight bout since returning from surgeries on both elbows. Defeat is a significant setback for Big Shot Shaw, who took the fight at short notice after Colombian contender Oscar Rivas suffered an injury in training and had the ambitious target of becoming America's next heavyweight boxing champion. YouTube star Ryan Taylor was left with a gruesomely swollen eye, which left him beaten against Swarms. Swarms was out for redemption after he took a fight against KSI on 2 weeks' notice in August. The rapper, 26 years old, was mocked for his unorthodox and inexperienced style, but vowed to prove the doubters wrong. And he did so in controversial style, as a jab in the first round left Taylor with swelling so bad the referee deemed him unable to continue. Per the rules, as the shot was a punch and not an accidental blow such as a headbutt or elbow, Swarms was declared the winner. Swarms now moves to 1-1 as a crossover boxer following his win on KSI's undercard. It was unclear whether Bills safety Damar Hamlin, who was still recovering after going into cardiac arrest on the field in Cincinnati 2 weeks ago, plans to attend Buffalo's wildcard playoff home game against the Miami Dolphins on Sunday. A person with direct knowledge of the player's schedule had told on Sunday that Hamlin planned to attend. He later said those plans may have changed. Hamlin visited teammates at the Bills stadium on Saturday but has not been seen in public since being rushed off the field in Cincinnati in an ambulance on January 2. He spent more than a week in the hospital, much of the time in critical condition. Charged-up fans are eager to blunt the memory of Hamlin's collapse when the 24-year-old from the Pittsburgh exurb of Mackey's Rocks stood up after making a tackle against the Bengals, then fell backwards, landing motionless on the turf at Packer Stadium. The Bills have not released any details about Hamlin's plans for the game. Georgia offensive lineman David Willock and a recruiting staff member were killed early Sunday in a car wreck, the school said, just hours after the Bulldogs celebrated their second straight national championship with a parade and ceremony. 2 other members of the football program were injured in the crash, which occurred in Athens, south of the Georgia campus. They were not immediately identified, but the school said both were in a stable condition. ESPN reported that another offensive lineman, Warren McClendon, was among the injured. The junior announced Saturday he was entering the NFL draft. The single vehicle wreck occurred at approximately 2:45 a.m., according to a statement from the Athens Clarke County Police Department. The initial investigation found that a Ford Expedition left the roadway, striking 2 power poles and several trees. The statement said the 20-year-old Willock was pronounced dead at the scene. The driver of the vehicle, 24-year-old Chandler LeCroy, was transported to a hospital where she died from her injuries. Trevor Lawrence's confidence somehow never wavered, not after the first interception, or the second, or the third. or even the fourth. The generational quarterback simply delivered a generational comeback. The number one overall pick in the 2021 draft followed 4 interceptions with 4 touchdown passes, one of the most improbable turnarounds in NFL postseason history, and rallied the Jacksonville Jaguars to a 31-30 victory over the Los Angeles Chargers on Saturday night. Lawrence engineered the winning drive, highlighted by Travis Etienne's 25-yard run on a 4th-and-1 play, and put the Jaguars in position for Riley Peterson's 36-yard field goal on the final play. It kept a 27-point comeback, the largest in franchise history and the third largest in playoff history. When Charles Omenihu knocked the ball out of Geno Smith's hands, Seattle's chances began to go away as well. The turnover spoiled a scoring chance for the Seahawks, and soon the game as San Francisco turned a tight game into a blowout. The Seahawks' surprising season came to a bitter end Saturday when they allowed 25 consecutive points in the second half and lost 41-23 to the 49ers in a wild-card game. "We had our shot," Coach Pete Carroll said. So the suddenness of this finish is what's so striking right now. "We thought we were going to make it happen and knock these guys off and keep going. I'm really disappointed. We had such a good opportunity today, we all felt it." After heading into halftime with a 17-16 lead following a gift-filled goal drive in the final 13 seconds thanks to a personal foul on Jimmy Ward, the Seahawks fell apart in the second half. The Niners got a spark when Seattle safety Jonathan Abram grabbed and twisted Deebo Samuel's previously injured left ankle following a tackle on the opening drive of the second half and never looked back. San Francisco took the lead for good on that drive when Brock Purdy converted a sneak from the one and the 49ers seized control on the strip sack by Omenihu that Nick Bosa recovered. Mancini and the Chicago Cubs have agreed to a 2-year contract, according to a person familiar with the deal. The person spoke to the Associated Press on condition of anonymity late Saturday night because the agreement is pending a successful physical. Mancini, a cancer survivor, helped the Houston Astros win the World Series last season after arriving August 1st from Baltimore in a 3-team trade that included Tampa Bay. He struggled at the plate with Houston and finished the season batting .239 with 18 home runs, 63 RBIs and .710 OPS overall for the Orioles and Astros. Mancini, who turns 31 in March, brings a right-handed bat with power and could be a primary option at designated hitter for the Cubs. He plays first base and the corner outfield spots, also giving Chicago a potential platoon partner for new first baseman Eric Hosmer, a left-handed hitter. Mancini would become the latest free agent addition for the active Cubs this winter after they went 74-88 last year for their second consecutive losing season. They also added Gold Glove shortstop Dansby Swanson, right-hander Jameson Taillon, outfielder Cody Bellinger, reliever Brad Boxberger, and catcher Tucker Bernhardt. Japanese right-hander Shintaro Fujinami and the Oakland Athletics finalized a $3.25 million one-year contract Friday, a deal that allows him to earn an additional $1 million in performance bonuses for stars. Fujinami would get $100,000 each for 5, 8, and 10 stars, $150,000 apiece for 13 and 18, and $200,000 each for 22 and 25. The hard-throwing Fujinami could fill a void in Oakland's rotation or pitch out of the bullpen. He spent the past 10 seasons with the Central League's Hanshin Tigers. The 6'6" Fujinami was 3.5 with a 3.38 ERA and .240 opponent's batting average in 10 starts and 6 relief appearances last year. He walked 21 batters and struck out 65 in 66 and 2/3 innings. Much like Los Angeles two-way superstar Shohei Ohtani, Fujinami can hit, although he had only 22 plate appearances last season. They are from the same 2012 draft class, with Fujinami just less than 3 months older than Ohtani. Henrik Kristoffersen raced through steady falling snow to win a World Cup slalom Sunday and give Norway a three-race weekend sweep for the third straight day in three different disciplines in Norwegian own with a home Swiss racer runner-up. Kristoffersen finished 0.20 seconds ahead of first-round leader Loic Meillard, who was denied giving Switzerland a first win for 36 years in its classic World Cup slalom. Lucas Brathen was third, 0.49 behind his Norway teammate Kristoffersen, 1 week after he won the slalom at nearby Adelboden. Other racers were all at least 1 second further back. Kristoffersen's 30th career World Cup win lifted him back into the lead over Brathen in the season-long slalom standings. The gap is just 10 points, 320-310. Ukraine winger Mikhailo Mudryk became the latest big-money signing for Chelsea under the club's new American ownership, joining from Shakhtar Donetsk on Sunday in a deal worth €100 million and on a remarkable 8.5-year deal. The 22-year-old Mudryk, who was heavily linked with a move to Arsenal, was pictured holding up a Ukraine flag inside Chelsea's stadium before the Premier League game against Crystal Palace and posing for photos. About 20 minutes into the match, Chelsea announced his signing and described him as one of the most dangerous attacking players in Europe in 1-versus-1 situations. Britain's press association reported that while Chelsea and Arsenal were believed to have offered a similar amount, the Blues have structured a deal which would see Shakhtar receive more money upfront and with more favorable add-ons than those being negotiated with Arsenal. Chelsea didn't disclose the fee, but Shakhtar said in a statement it will receive €70 million and another €30 million as a bonus payment. Chelsea eased the pressure on manager Graham Potter by securing just a second Premier League victory since October with a 1-0 win over Crystal Palace at Stamford Bridge on Sunday. Kai Havertz headed in the winning goal in the 64th minute in front of Chelsea's latest signing, Ukrainian winger Mikhailo Mudryk, who was paraded on the field at halftime. It was a poignant day in West London as Chelsea paid tribute to former striker Gianluca Vialli, who died this month at the age of 58. Before the match, with a host of the Italians' former teammates returning to pay their respects, it contributed to a feeling of togetherness between players and supporters at Stamford Bridge as the team put a dreadful last 7 days, which culminated in a red card for new signing João Felix in a defeat at Fulham on Thursday. Behind them, it was only a second win in the last 10 games in the league to take some of the heat off Potter, with 10th place Chelsea moving level on points with Liverpool in 9th. That's all in today's sports world. Keep watching Millennium Sports World for latest sports updates. Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia available with a Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment programs. Thank you.